Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the We Get to Do This podcast.
This week, we sat down with Courtney Tanaka, who is owner and founder of RenewMe PT. Courtney specializes in orthopedics, pregnancy, postpartum health, and we talked a lot about the benefits of PT and everything she does with both her mobile service and serving patients in person in Maple Grove, Minnesota.
We hope you enjoy our last episode of 2025.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you all, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of the year.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. And this week, we are welcoming Courtney Tanaka. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, it's a very snowy day, and we all got slammed with lots of cancellations today. So I'm hoping that we all have very good snowy day blizzard energy. I know I do. So I'm probably gonna be weird today. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be weird today. But let's start. If you could just briefly tell us, who are you, what do you do, and why do you do it? And we'll go from there.
Okay. Yep. My name is Courtney. I own RenewMe Physical Therapy and Wellness. I have been a PT for over 13 years. But RenewMe is kind of a baby. I started it last year. And really I started it because I don't know how you guys feel about the healthcare system, but I feel like it is not serving the populations that it should be serving at this point in time, namely moms. So I work with a lot of moms. And I just feel like they're an underserved population, right? You have your baby, you go in for your 6-week check, and they're like, oh, cute, you look good, sounds good, your baby's good, see you later. And you kind of like leave that appointment and you're like, well, now what am I supposed to do? My body doesn't feel right. Like I just don't have any energy. And so, really, I started my practice to start serving those that feel like they were being undervalued, undertreated, particularly as it stands to like return to activity, return to running, return to things that you enjoy doing. How do I get those moms to do those things, and how do I get them there safely without them feeling like, oh my gosh, I can never do these things again? So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
I love it. We're talking. This is great. We've had last week. Yeah, last week we had on Sarah, who's a menopause coach, and we talked a lot about women's health. And now we get to talk more about moms and women's health. And I feel like it's a great. Our podcast has been a great combo for me to learn, honestly.
It's really for us.
Figuring out. I mean, seriously, like I'm a 27-year-old male, right? So my background and for unfortunate, better or worse, I just have not done as good of a job as I probably should have learning a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to chat more about it. I am curious first though. So you said you were a PT for about 13 years and then switched
Mhm.
to Renew Me, which is your current endeavor that we just talked about. What was that? Can you like walk us through what that transition was like in like those 13 years, briefly, like what you were doing in the PT realm versus, okay, I'm going to make the leap and do my own thing.
Yeah. So I am an orthopedic certified specialist or orthopedic clinical specialist, which essentially means I see a lot of orthopedic issues. So I was treating post-op ACLs, post-op knee replacements, back pain, knee pain, and you name it, right? And it got to the point where I just felt like I was a wheel in the cog of this huge factory. People were coming, they were going, they were coming, they were going, and honestly, I was going to work my last couple of years and I was like, gosh, I don't want to be here. Somebody like my back hurts. And I'm like, yeah, so does the person behind, before you. In my head, I would never say that. But it got to a point where I was like, gosh, I don't love this anymore. And so probably for a couple of years, I was like, how can I love my job again? And honestly, I had a lot of safety nets, but at one point I was like, I'm done. We're doing it. We're gonna see where this goes. Now still have a ton of safety nets because, financially we do need to live and survive and I have a family, but for the most part it's working out okay. But yeah, I just got to a point where I was like, this is not fun anymore. And instead of just changing careers entirely, how can I make this fun again? So yeah. Mhm.
Interesting. What would you
Yeah.
say the scariest part's been of that transition?
Just kind of like not knowing what's coming next, not knowing when the next patient is gonna walk into the door, and honestly, I know nothing about owning a business, so it's been a big learning curve of, like, here are the things that you should do to run your own business, and I'm still learning. Who heaven knows if I'm even doing it right anymore, but the amount of networking that I have done, like meeting people like you guys and chiropractors and doulas, and I swear at this point I know the whole Twin Cities as it relates to like women's healthcare.
I do feel like owning your own business, though, is so good with networking, and you're just, like, constantly putting yourself out there all the time in hopes that, like, there'll be some kind of connection with people, you know?
Well, yeah, yeah. Even when I worked, because I worked in a very big hospital system in outpatient, and it was still a cutthroat world. It's how do I get the doctors to remember who I am so they'll refer me the patients, right? I wanted to see the fun post ops and return to activity, and in order to get those, you basically had to schmooze your way into it, right? You had to remind the doctors who you were and what you can do, and remind them, oh yeah, remember this patient? This is what I did with them, and so it's kind of similar of like just show my face so people remember who I am, and the hope is once you get some good results from patients, they'll tell their friends and their friends will tell their friends. And hopefully it's a trickle down effect. But, I mean, it's the same thing with you guys, right? It's how do I get people through the door and how do I prove that I am actually good at what I do?
Yeah, and then getting them to continue coming back to see, like, "Yes, this is what I can do," and how you will feel as a result of the services that I provide.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's looking for a quick fix, right? And physical therapy is not a quick fix. I can do some things that like make you feel better in the moment, but in the long term, it's a long-term investment. And, if we can get people on board, then we tend to do a lot better with them. So
How do you do that? Because I feel like that's something that I definitely struggle with, and it's like we know the benefits as the practitioner, but what is like, do you have any ways that you then get, like, your patients to know that? Especially because if they walk out of after the first time, they're like, "Wow, I do feel better." That doesn't always mean like, "Oh, I should keep coming back for this service that will continue helping me," because there's still so much potential. Like, what do you do?
yeah, I think I break it down into like three steps, right? So I'm explaining to somebody, here's what I'm finding. And then I say, well, here's step one, like phase one, right? It's basically retraining your muscles of here's what you need to be doing to get you where you're at. That's phase one. So I break it down in phases. And then phase two is now we're really going to strengthen you up. In strength training, if you look at a cellular level physiologically, it takes 8 weeks to even gain any amount of pure strength. Now, obviously, there's changes that can happen in between there, but once I break it down to this phase takes a couple weeks, and then this phase takes a few weeks, and then truly we can get into your return to sport, return to run. But if you don't have the foundations laid before then, the risk of re-injury down the road is greater. And so it's more of a here's how it works on a cellular or physiological level without boring somebody because most people don't care about the physiology. They're like, how long is it going to take to get me to feel better?
Mhm. When
So
can I run again?
exactly, exactly. And I don't shut people down either. So if somebody wants to run, I'm like, you can run, but here's what to expect then if you're continuing to run through an injury. Now, of course, I would shut somebody down if it was absolutely necessary. But runners, you're a crazy breed. If I told you not to run, you'd be like, I'm gonna go find somebody else then.
Yeah. Yeah, runners are
So
definitely their own unique species for sure.
Yeah, it's funny
yes,
too, like, as someone who specializes, mainly with runners, I always wanted to be the person that was like, yeah, find the practitioner that's not going to shut you down. But as I've worked more with runners, I almost feel like, how do I say this in a very nice way? I almost feel like we do sometimes need that though, like we need to be told to shut it down or at least slow down.
yeah,
I found that, I mean, it's, you have the person running 40 miles a week, 50 miles a week, and they're like, they've had this chronic thing for, months, a year, whatever. And everyone's saying to them, what if you just like took 2 weeks off completely, but it's like the end of the world and they can't do
it
it.
is.
And then something catastrophic finally happens. Now they had to take like, months off, where I feel like a lot of us could, if we took 2 weeks off, or if we like planned that into our schedules and took 2 weeks off
Yeah.
and actually like took a break from running, no running, we would all like injury rates, I have to imagine would drop a lot for us runners, for the runner population.
Theoretically, but I also really want to look at like somebody's mental component as well. Like, is it going to drive you absolutely bonkers and really affect your mental state if I don't let you do this? But to your point, Yeah, I will either slow people down or I will really reduce their like frequency, or sometimes I can like just modify or tweak one or two things in their runs and they're like, "Oh, that doesn't hurt when I run like that."
Mhm,
So, you know, it's really just getting to know the person, what they need, what they want, and then
mhm,
go with the flow kind of. I always joke with people, I'm the most type B physical therapist you will ever meet.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
And because you do return to running plans then too, right?
yeah, yeah, I do. Particularly too with women who have had babies, right? There's a lot of people out there that believe you can't do anything until you're 6 weeks postpartum. But there's a lot of new research coming out that you can absolutely move pre 6 weeks postpartum. And I used to believe that, okay, well, if you're not at least 12 weeks, you definitely shouldn't be running. But there are circumstances for everybody, and everybody's a little bit different. So it's just kind of learning your body, and for me, learning other people's bodies and their goals and hopes and dreams and aspirations, and meeting them in the middle somewhere of what's appropriate. So,
What does like that so we don't have children, but like what does that like postpartum period look like I guess specifically to like endurance athletes? And I know everyone's different, but like in general, like what are some things that like you tell like the people that you see and like what does that trajectory look
yeah.
like?
Yeah, and a lot of it depends on how mobile you can still be throughout pregnancy, right? For the most part, we want people to continue to move and exercise. And if you're an endurance athlete, you can still be an endurance athlete even while you're pregnant. Now, of course, there are circumstances that could change that. But if for the most part you get through your pregnancy, it's fairly healthy. You know, labor delivery was healthy. And if you generally are having a comfortable postpartum period, you know, I've seen people start back as early as 4 to 6 weeks postpartum. Would I have done that? No, heck no. But it's really a matter of like, what does your strength look like? And again, where are your foundations? And if they're good, then let's get back out there and do the thing that A makes you you, because just because you're a mom now doesn't mean you can't do certain things. But B, that also really help your mental clarity, because if your mental clarity is better, then you're going to show up better as a mom. You're going to show up better as like a spouse, a partner, all of that stuff. So it really, everything kind of goes hand in hand. So for endurance athlete, particularly if they kind of kept up throughout their pregnancy, it's a quicker turnaround sometimes, simply just because they already have the movement and motor patterns, and it comes back quicker. So
Mhm.
mhm.
Makes sense.
So,
Go ahead.
you sure?
after
So
you.
okay, someone if the start of pregnancy, are there certain things that you think for each trimester that the like for an endurance runner, what they should be focusing on specifically?
I mean, I'm a huge proponent of all kinds of cross training, right? I would hope, and I know this is not the case because I would consider myself a runner and I am not very good at my strength training,
Yes.
but one would hope that you are strength training as well as running. And I mean, research shows that you can train literally from day one of pregnancy all the way up until you deliver. And so I don't necessarily change anything unless there's obviously pain or problems that come up, and then in which case everything is kind of individualized. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change anything for people as long as things are hunky dory and the doctor says it's okay, of course. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Are there any like specific like strength things, so veering away from running, I guess a little bit that they should be focusing on, do you think?
Pregnant, like women who are pregnant in particular.
Throughout pregnancy, yeah.
I mean, anything you would do with your other runners. The hot button right now is the pelvic floor, right? Everybody talks about the pelvic floor. And the thing of it is yes, it is. It's a group of muscles that obviously is a little bit more intimate, but your pelvic floor is worked with things like squats and you know, banded walks or a bridge in running, and so there are no like special pelvic floor exercises that I give. I'm sure that there are out there, but I would rather give you a functional exercise that's going to carry you through like your day to day activity than give you like, you know, Kegels throughout the day or what have you. But I like to focus a lot on glutes and core. Obviously, your core changes as you get pregnant, but glutes and core are like huge for me. That's where I spend a lot of my time, anyways. So,
Nice, I'm doing it right.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna ask, like, because pelvic floor, PTs and therapy is, like, the hot word, like you said, like, I was gonna ask, like, does should that be, like, a standard recommendation now for people? Or but I guess, like, if you already have, like, a PT and you're doing strength training and stuff, then I guess that means then that it doesn't necessarily automatically mean because you're pregnant, you need to see, like, a pelvic floor specialist? Is that
Correct. Not necessarily. And I think there's a time and a place for every practitioner. And I technically am trained in them, but I don't use internal pelvic exams a lot in my practice because I think a lot can be done externally from an orthopedic lens. But, certainly if there were some signs and symptoms of pelvic floor, you may then want to shuffle to like a pelvic floor provider. But yeah, if somebody's pregnant and they're, you know, doing well, already seeing a PT or, keeping up with their strength training program, there's no reason to like switch over specifically to a pelvic floor provider. My feelings. There might be some people out there who disagree, but
Yeah. Very good to
No,
know.
that's interesting. So like, so if you are someone who are like you're experiencing, things like bladder issues, not the like cramping while running in your pelvic floor, what else? Things like that, then you would potentially go to the pelvic floor specialist, but you wouldn't necessarily like get pregnant and go, all right, pelvic floor specialist. It's more of if you were to get pregnant, glutes, legs, core, a lot,
correct. Well,
everything,
and
you know.
yep, yeah. Yeah, I for sure. I think, yeah, definitely unless there's signs and symptoms that would, speak to the pelvic floor, I think, general strength training is great. But a lot of pelvic floor trained physical therapists also have training more like in birth prep and like what to expect when pregnant. I
Mhm.
remember when I was working in the clinic, I think there was like a few pregnant women that came in and ended up on some of my male colleagues' schedules, and they're like, I'm not touching her. Can you take her? Right. And so there are a lot of basic orthopedic PTs, which is great. But those might not be the people that you want, necessarily seeing your pregnant or postpartum people, simply because A, they might not be comfortable with it, and B, there are other providers that are more well versed in pregnancy, postpartum, things like that. So,
Yeah, because I was gonna ask that too. Because one of my friends was just telling me that she was, like it was her PT, I think, that was, like, talking about, like she was pregnant, and then they're talking about, like, how to basically, like, relax, like, the pelvic floor muscles so that she was prepared for labor,
Mm.
and I was like, "That's actually, like I feel like that actually could be really important." Like, I get that, like, our bodies should just, like we're women, we should know, like, how to, like, have the baby, but it's like but especially in today's day and age, I feel like we're just, like, also, like, clenched up all the time, and, like, the idea of, like, learning how to, like, relax, like, physically relax your body, I feel like that could prevent, like, a lot of, like, labor complications too, like, knowing how to do that.
yeah, that's the idea, right? And again, there's a lot of research around exercise and yes, pelvic floor therapy in general about the outcomes of labor, simply because education goes a long way, right? Like if you educate somebody about something, it tends to go a long way. And then also just focusing on the right things is always helpful too. So, as we come out of PT school, we know the pelvic floor muscles and we know what they're there, but most of the time as PTs, we kind of tend to pick a lane and stick in it, right? So like you're the knee specialist or you're the back specialist or you're the shoulder specialist. So if somebody came in and asked my colleague who normally sees a shoulder about their pelvic floor, they'd be like, mm-mm. You have to go see Courtney instead, right? So
Mm, mhm.
it's important that you're seeing a PT that actually specializes in what you're having a problem with. But yeah.
Yeah, and so you, like, took the, like, running, like, athlete route now and, like, with moms and, like, postpartum and stuff, like
hmm
and you just did TC10, correct?
hmm
Like, when did you start running, and, like, did you do that before kids, after kids? Like, what does that journey look like for you?
Yeah, that's funny. I actually didn't start running until after kids. Oh, how old am I? I don't know, 38. Am I 38? I started running probably about 30, 31, 32. So I'm newer into the running world. And yeah, I mean, I've always been semi-active simply because if I teach other people that exercise is important, I feel like I should at least also follow that somewhat. But I started just running like short distances, 5Ks, and then I got into the women run the cities. The 10K is like my absolute favorite race in the cities. Yeah, and just gradually was like, running races is so fun for me. You just feel like such validation when you cross the finish line. And so I just all of a sudden every year I was running like one or two races. I have yet to do a marathon. It's on my 40th birthday bucket list. So in 2 years, you hopefully can find me at Twin Cities Marathon. But um Yeah, part of the other problem too is I had my own issues with running after baby. It doesn't feel the same. I'm like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to happen." So, kind of just took my own curiosities and then just all of a sudden curated this interest in women's health, return to run, return to sport, because we can do it. Just because we're moms and had a baby doesn't mean our bodies are ruined and we can't do the things that everybody else does. So,
Mhm.
What kind of issues did either, if you are willing to share, you personally face postpartum, or if not, what typically do you see from like runners that you work with?
Yeah, 'cause I
yeah,
feel like
good
usually we
question.
don't share this stuff, like runners and like what like intimacy looks like there's so many things that are just like taboo topics, and then
Yeah.
it's like then you like have the baby and all of a sudden it's is is this my new norm?
Mhm.
Like, am I just gonna have to like deal with this the rest of my life? And am I like the only one who's ever experienced this? And I feel like we just don't
Exactly.
talk.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you go to Google, and Google probably diagnoses you with something super morbid, but, um,
Right.
postpartum, I actually started off with a lot of, back pain with breastfeeding, so I struggled a lot with breastfeeding, but also, struggled a lot with back pain, which still bothers me. I should come see you, Kaylee. Um,
You know where
and
to find.
then once yeah, and then once I started running, I was leaking, like, a lot. I actually remember I ran this race in Door County, and I didn't know what was happening, but I finished this race, and, like, I basically peed my pants, and I was like,
Mm.
"What the heck is going on?" And then it's just like a heaviness feeling, you'd, like, run and you just feel super heavy, and it's really uncomfortable, and so that was kind of what I struggled with, and so a lot of runners, particularly people who are moms, joke about I have to cross my legs when I sneeze or I pee my pants when I run. That is not normal. It's common, but it's not normal, and that can be rectified, right? Like you can go from peeing your pants a lot to maybe just a little leakage, or you can go from a little leakage to like nothing at all. It's totally possible with the right rehab and exercises. Um, Also, like, hips and knees get a lot more bothersome when you return to run after having a baby just because of how your ligaments and hips have shifted, and so, and then too, like, form and cadence. I don't know, Jacob, if you work a lot with, like, form and cadence, but some of the women who become moms that I've watched run, I'm like, "How is that even comfortable?" And
Right.
so, it's just kind of like figuring out, like, I'm not here to change your entire gait and cadence, but maybe if we can modify a few things, it might feel better for you, so, yeah.
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, I trying to think about like how I kind of bridge that gap with like with the actual form and cadence work and whatnot. I typically, honestly, when I talk to runners and moms, I'm usually I will refer out for that type of thing. Usually, like I'll be like, if you are experiencing any of the things that you just talked about, here's who I think you should go and see and talk to,
Yeah.
and just get another opinion on it because it's just not, again, not something I'm super knowledgeable on, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you don't necessarily have to be or are supposed to be because there are
Mhm,
there are people out there, for that.
mhm,
But one easy tip I actually tell moms particularly is like we're always just in such a hurry to get somewhere that we're always taking such large steps in running in strides. So if you just like shorten your
mhm,
stride up just a little bit, it reduces the force on your pelvic floor so much.
mhm,
So that's one small thing you could tell your clients, right?
mhm.
Maybe you don't stride so far. See how that feels. But yeah.
Is there any, since we're on the topic of like stride, as you are carrying a child and your pelvis goes into more of a tilt and your running pattern changes throughout pregnancy, after you have said baby, do you recommend doing anything specifically to like change the pattern kind of back to pre that anterior tilt? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it depends. I know like everybody
Or if
hates
it
that
might just
answer, but
naturally come back to, I'm just curious what your.
well, I think you have to ask yourself a few questions. Like number one, is it impacting how they want to be running? Is it impacting how they're feeling? Like, does something feel off with like their new running pattern? Then perhaps I would like try to look at the root cause and maybe tweak some things back. But if nothing hurts and they're happy with how they're running, I wouldn't touch it, right? It's almost like if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. And I mean, naturally, as women, it is habitual, right? It does become habitual from all that extra weight through pregnancy, and so most of the time, it would kind of go back to what's comfortable for them. But if they're comfortable in how it feels now, I probably wouldn't change anything.
Cool.
Mm.
What are you typically seeing postpartum?
Well, like when you're talking about like the heaviness and stuff, like I have a lot of people, it's like the fatigue and like the heaviness and like I feel like those are like some of the most common things. And but like from a Chinese medicine perspective, it's like your qi and your blood are completely wiped. Like your body's so depleted after. And then I feel like so many people do immediately try to like get back into their activities. And it'll be very interesting like when I'm a mom someday.
Mm,
To see like what happens. Cause it's like, I'm talking about these things all day, every day about like resting and recovering and but like the idea of like being off for a few months of my activity is like
Already stresses you out.
stresses me out, which is funny because again, I'm that person that I like am talking to like my about my patients all day about like I mean right now my with my toe situation, and I'm supposed to be doing a half marathon in South Carolina this weekend, and I wasn't ever planning on, like, racing it, but I was planning on doing it, and I'm like, "I can run through that." And then Jacob and I talked about, like it's so funny because like, if a patient came and told me that, I'd be like, "What are you doing? Like, just chill, like, you just did 100 miles, like, 6 weeks ago, like, what are you doing?" And then same with, like, having a baby, it's like, you just had a child, like, you just grew a child, and then you just birthed said child.
Mhm.
Like, you don't need to, like, immediately go back into this stuff. But then
And
I also understand the other side of it, like, with the mental health too. Like, I am not naive to that because again, me personally, like, I get that I need movement for my mental health or, like, how that is affected. Um,
yeah. And
so
sometimes too, I feel like sometimes those new moms, they just need somebody to listen to them and to understand like what they're going through. And I could spend a whole session with somebody and not even do any exercises or not even touch them because I can tell that they just need me to like be here and understand like where they're at in their, process of motherhood and things of that nature. But um I know it's funny that you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna run through it, but I would definitely tell my patient not to do that. It's like we live in this do as I say, not as I do kind of world. And I always tell, I probably shouldn't, but I like always tell my patients, I'm like, well, it's do as I say, not as I do. Cause one year when I was training for, I think I was training for a half marathon and I had overtrained. And like the week before I had like this acute peroneal tendonitis going on, like my foot was just like blown up and I could barely bear weight. And I'm like, I'm going to dry needle it. I'm going to tape it. I'm going to ice it. And I'm going to run that thing next week. I don't care what anybody says. I'm running it. So
well, I think it's hard as practitioners too, because it's like you do have all those tools available to you. And it's like I can be needling myself every day, I can be red lighting every day, I have my herbs, like I know the things to do. But then it's reminding myself like sometimes it's literally just time. Like, and that goes back to I think just like the knowing when to rest and like it's okay to just like sometimes take a couple days off or 2 weeks off. And like, when Jacob was, like, talking about taking 2 weeks off too, like, I feel like sometimes, like, that actually feels better because it's, like especially if it's planned, then it feels more in your control
mhm,
versus, like, when so many people like, when runners get injured, it just feels like everything's out of your control, and that's, like, the situation I'm in right now too with my, like, toes. It's, like, you want this control in your life, and then, like, an injury happens or, like, you have a baby, and now all of a sudden it's, like, not about you anymore, and, like, you don't get a say in
that's
this.
right, yep, yeah. You're
And,
not
like
yeah, that you're not in control, yeah, and I think that's too what people need to be reminded and told, so that's yeah, exactly. So
it
what
runs
you're saying is I
my
should
day.
plan rest.
Plan
I should
rest.
proactively plan rest for all of my patients, be like, "Listen here, you're not gonna run for this 2 weeks just because Jacob and Kaylee said we're
I don't know
planning
how
your
well
rest."
that would go, but you can try it. Um, but yeah, like, even, like, with my moms and stuff, like, the my pregnant moms, like, I do try to, like, there's a book called The First 40 Days. It's a book that I highly recommend to my patients to kind of, like, start getting in that frame of mind of, like, it's okay to like take rest time after you give birth and like just like letting them know like what you're feeling is normal and like this fatigue is normal and like having like your pelvis feel off is normal and like pressure like on your diaphragm and I mean everything within reason, right? But like some extra discomfort, like your body is changing in all the ways right now to grow this
Right.
child. And the first 40 days is about like truly taking those first 40 days postpartum to relax and to replenish, like not just like you're not just taking care of baby, but you're taking care of yourself too. And I feel like
Mhm.
so many moms just like immediately jump back into things because that's our culture, right? Is to bounce back. And even after you have a
Exactly.
C-section where it's like you were literally like cut open, you had this major surgery and you're back at work in 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
it's like, of course, that's going to cause issues down the road potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I know if I had it my way, like every woman who birthed a baby would walk out of the hospital with a physical therapy order, whether it's for now, whether it's for later. But like I actually just threw something on my social today of like I come to you 2 weeks postpartum, like in your home, and people are like 2 weeks, I can't do anything 2 weeks postpartum. But it's not about doing like heavy exercises, but it's about educating of like here's what happened and here's now what to expect of your body, but also let's reconnect with your breath. Let's reconnect with like how your abdominals can work. And let's just like learn what's to come, right? So um I like to see women 2 weeks postpartum. And that's also the great thing about me being mobile is I can come to your house. You don't have to pack up baby and come, but like I see you once and I set you up with like here's the education that I want everybody to have that most people don't have. And then we come back at like 6 weeks postpartum and really kind of work on your foundations of strength training and getting you back to running, getting you back to CrossFit. And CrossFit's been huge. I've had a lot of CrossFit moms on my schedule lately, and I have had to learn about CrossFit because I'll be honest, I was very ignorant about CrossFit. And holy cow, those people are strong.
Yeah. That's a
Oh
whole
yeah,
nother breed.
that's a whole yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just took this class a few weeks ago, and it was pelvic floor for the active population, and they talk a lot about CrossFit. So they made us do some of the CrossFit moves, and I was like, I can't do that. I can't do a double under. I can't do like a kipping pull up. Like I can't even do a pull up with assistance. I'm like, how do
Mhm.
these people do these things? I'm like, so I have this whole new respect for CrossFit, particularly moms in CrossFit who have gone back postpartum. I'm like, wow, that is impressive.
Mhm. Then you can imagine, I'm sure, the high that they're getting from these lifts and from the classes, and again, how it's like you just like want to get back to that, and how you can then be really hard on yourself when your body doesn't like doing like a kipping pull up like after like giving birth, like that's you're gonna be functioning very differently than you were before having the baby, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I struggle with a little bit with social media too. Like, because you see these women who are like 6 weeks postpartum back at CrossFit doing these things. So then every other mom who's 6 weeks postpartum is like, oh my gosh, is that what I'm supposed to be doing already? And so I have a love-hate relationship with social media, but
Yeah,
you
it's like
know,
if that's what you wanna do, awesome, but, like, don't it's not intended to make you feel behind because you're
right.
not doing those things.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
also, like, I think it's very cool that you go, like, 2 weeks postpartum too to see moms and how, again, it's not about, like, getting in, like, these big movements and lifts and, like, that's what I see in my practice too of, like, the moms just need, like, support because it's, like, all about the baby, which it's supposed to be, right? Like, you've had this baby, but also it's, like, the mom needs that nourishment and the mom needs that support, and I do not offer mobile acupuncture at this moment, but I'm always like, when you are ready to like leave the house, like I'm here and like just to like for them to just like get an hour to just themselves. I feel like yes, the treatment has its place, but like just to like have them like get that support from,
Totally.
you and for me is like I feel like very important for them to be like, okay,
Totally.
how am I feeling? You know?
Yeah, exactly. You explain to me because I don't know much about acupuncture, but I dry needle as a physical therapist. And so people are like, how's this different from acupuncture? And I'm like, well, one's an Eastern medicine and one's a Western medicine. What more do you need to know?
Yeah.
So what is the difference between acupuncture and dry needling in your words?
Great question. Dry needling is just like very focused on like one part of the body, like on the physical side. So like if somebody's having like pain, tension, some kind of injury. So like I'm guessing, if somebody has like a hamstring strain. So you're gonna be like going in like the hamstring glute area, for example, low back. And so it's addressing like the musculoskeletal things. And with acupuncture, it's like we're looking at how everything works together. And like we're able to help with like hormones and digestion and your mental health. Like I treat a lot of people with like anxiety and depression. I can help with sleep. And so it's just kind of like a different like a different perspective, I guess. Because again, not that like you're not looking at the whole person, like if somebody has like some kind of like muscular imbalance, it's just like looking at different things and like, somebody and then how that stuff is related to like muscle imbalances. So I mean, if I have like a super stressed out patient who never rests, for example, or like is sitting at a computer, like, how can we get them to de-stress, which will then, in return, then help their back while also working on their back at the same time. And then, like, if I can help with their headaches or like the nervous system side and get them to actually be able to do their activities. So I guess, yeah, it's like I feel like the nervous system side is pretty huge too. And
Yeah.
like getting people from that like fight or flight to rest and digest, like the parasympathetic nervous system. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And too, when your nervous system is like not relaxed, it's really hard to like focus on one area, right? If I want somebody to fire their glutes instead of their hamstring when their whole nervous system is like ramped up, everything is firing at the same time. And so that makes a lot of sense. I know I'm always like, I don't know, I'm just trying to relieve a trigger point with my needle, and I think acupuncture needle doesn't go quite as deep as a dry needling needle does because I'm aiming into the muscle, right? And as far as I understand, acupuncture needle is not necessarily going all the way into the muscle. Is that inaccurate?
It depends on the acupuncturist. So, like, I do go towards, like, trigger points or, typically more motor points, which are more, like, anatomical areas. So, like, instead of it's like I have taken a dry needling class too, and it's more of, like, you're finding, like, that, like, tight band of muscle,
Hmm.
right? And then going into that to then help, like, release oxygen, bring, like, blood flow back, and help release that tension. With motor points, it's, like, a very specific area where the nerves and muscles are to help release. Um, and sports acupuncturists like do go deep. So like if I'm in the glute, like I can be using if you don't like needles, turn this off for a second. But like I mean like long needles that are going through like the whole glute, depending on like the area that I'm treating. But there are people that are more like Japanese style acupuncturists who do go very shallow and won't be
Okay.
like addressing like the muscles. So I like to say I'm a mix. Like I love working on like the nervous system side of things and like helping people calm down. But like I'm also like if you're coming into me for like really tight glutes or like a hamstring injury, like I'm going to be going deep into that muscle depending on who you are too. Like
Sure.
if you're a frail elderly lady, I'm probably not going to be like just jamming my needles deep into you. Um so it's like, I mean, with all of us, it's like, okay, who's the person in front of me and like, how can I best serve them
Sure.
today? And I think that's why, like, all of our training, like, why it's important to like go to a specialist like us, because it's like you can like individualize care.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
just
I struggle with blanket statements, right? I hate blanket statements of if you are pregnant, you should do this, and I'm like, that is a blanket statement that is unnecessary.
right. Or like all
But
PTs do this or all acupuncturists do this. It's like
right,
we all practice so differently. And like you said at your previous practice, like it was all like orthopedic stuff and like back pain, knee pain, like, and now it's like you have like this different shift and focus. And especially since you do have like your own practice, I feel like you have more autonomy with like how you do on a practice. And that's why like I've tried to blend like both the sports, like muscular side with also like the nervous system side and more of like the holistic, like, and still like working within the realms of Chinese medicine, but like how Chinese medicine can affect like athletes in like a very helpful way.
Yeah. Well, and it's all connected, right? I remember being in PT school when they're like, "Well, what do you want to focus on?" And I'm like, and somebody would say neuromuscular, or somebody would say orthopedics, or somebody would say inpatient. And at the end of the day, everything is intertwined. Like you have to know your neuro in order to know your ortho, and vice versa. And so, yeah, it's important that you understand how all the systems work together, which is why it's really important for all of us to network and know everybody and know, okay, well, you should go see Dr. Kaylee for this, and you should go see, this chiropractor for this because I know that this is what they're good at, right? So,
Right. And especially when it comes to, I feel like women and pregnancy and postpartum, like they're definitely, I feel like that definitely does start to become more specialized too. It's like it's cool to know people like you to be like, okay, Courtney has children and she's gone through this too. It's like you have personal experience with that and like knowing that that's like who you work with. So,
yeah, yes,
Yeah, I'm personally a big fan of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
We both are, but
we talk
I really like referring to people who have personal experiences in certain things. I like you talked about earlier, walking the talk. So getting personal experience in certain things, I think it's really good personally,
yeah,
but that's just me.
no, we talk
I
all the
know.
time about
Well,
like, sorry, go ahead, Courtney.
oh, I was just gonna say I'm like maybe I need to get myself a run coach, so I'll put you on my list, Jacob, because even though I like know the things, you still need somebody to help you even as a professional. You're like, okay, how would I train for this said
I learned.
marathon that's coming up?
I like this idea. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, we talk all the time about how like it takes a village and it takes a team and it's not just like I'm not telling people like only go to acupuncturist. Like it's about having a team and like having all these resources and it's like I go see an acupuncturist. People are always like, "Oh, do you like needle yourself?" And it's like, "Yes, I do." And I like going to see somebody else because I know that they're going to be treating me differently. And I see a couple different people too, to be honest, right now.
Yeah.
And because I know like what each person's going to help me with. And I think that's totally fine. And I think it's just about finding like the provider that helps you the most and in that like season too, and how it can
Hmm.
always change.
Absolutely.
Which I do think is also hard. I think
Yeah.
we talked about this last week at a talk we were doing in Stillwater, actually, because one of the audience members asked us. And for the people like us that are in the circle, it's definitely easier. I can recognize that to like find other practitioners, and vet them and whatever, right? Um, but we got asked a question last week at the talk we were doing, and they were like, we have no idea where to start. Like, as
Hmm.
they were like endurance runners, most people in that room were like 40 plus. There were some moms, things like that. And they were like, we have no idea who's good, who's not, like where we should go, where we should not go. And like depending on what you're looking for, like it's expensive too. So, I think that could be a cool, if we could figure out how to bridge that gap next as an industry and kind of, you know, create,
Yeah.
I don't know, more consistent and reliable things in that sense too. And,
Let's
I
do
don't know.
it.
Yeah, let's just do it right now.
I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? I love to tell people that because they're like, "Well, I didn't know, like I didn't know you existed, or I didn't know this existed." And it's like, yeah, you never know what you don't know. But the question is, how do I go about learning and knowing that? Yeah. So for somebody who's like, man, I really don't even know what's out there, or for somebody who doesn't even know what a PT does or what an acupuncturist does, or why do I need a run coach to learn how to like run, or train for this race? You don't know, and how do we get the information out there so that everybody has like fair and equal opportunity to learn and then to make choices? That's
Yeah.
a good question we need to answer.
We just use social media more.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, social media obviously has its downsides, but that is one of the nice things is that people can post like, this is what I treat, this is what I help with, and I try to occasionally do like a weekly like wrap up of like, these are the things I saw in the treatment room this week. And then people will be like, oh, I had no idea that you could help with like IBS, or I had no idea you could help me with like that heavy feeling. And I do feel like there's a place for that too, to be able to like share these stories
Yeah, totally.
in a free way too. And I hope that like people can ask us to like, I think that's another thing, like patients like can go to all of us and ask like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to help me with this. Do you have any suggestions? And I feel like most of us are willing and want to like help with like providing those resources.
Yeah,
And even if you don't know, like we can go to like other colleagues and say like, I'm not sure, but like I'll get you a better answer. And yeah, I just hope that's something that listeners can take away too, is like you can ask all of us, ask your doctor, like ask different providers, like who they should be looking for different things. And then all of
yeah,
us
totally.
like able to like refer out to.
Yeah, because you're already in like their, their trusted provider circle. So hopefully they're more likely to listen to who you have to recommend than their neighbor's dad's uncle or, something like that. So I know I remember when I started my own business, somebody's like, oh, isn't it going to be weird? Like not having any coworkers or, not having anybody to bounce ideas off of. But I'm like thinking about all the people that I've met. Like I have a ton of coworkers, so to speak. Like I know all these healthcare providers now, and I feel really good about when somebody asks me, who should I go see for this? I know exactly who to tell them. And then, to have a good enough relationship too, to then reach out to that provider and be like, hey, I sent you so and so, like here's the update on them. So I don't ever feel lonely in running my own business, but also as healthcare providers, we see people all the time. So
That, I like that perspective, though. I think it's a good way to look at we're all coworkers. And I think that referring to, going back to what you said about having trusted networks, like if we can't figure out X, but Kaylee could potentially figure out X, that bridging that, you still play a very big role. If, that person figured it out, right? You play a very big role in that still too, and it's like, that's like
yeah,
the team and the gap so I think I think it's very good. Um,
yeah,
I have a question about being a mom that
yes.
I wanted to ask and I didn't. Um, I'm very curious what your most rewarding thing about being a mother is and the most challenging thing about being a
Oh
mother is.
gosh.
Now
I mean,
that
I could.
on the spot.
Welcome to the
Yeah,
pod.
you did. I mean, I could give you a million challenging things, right?
All right, go ahead.
Okay,
Let's do top 10.
I I will actually say the most challenging thing, and this I suppose could be skewed to be rewarding as well, is like you feel your kids' emotions so deep, it like hits you to the core. And this just happened to me the other day, but something happened. My son's feelings got hurt, like, in a really bad way, and you could tell he was just holding it all in until he was, like, able to turn his head and, like, he could just, like, collapsed and cried into me, and, like, immediately, I was like, "I don't think I've ever felt so sad before in my life," and so I think it's really challenging to learn that you just absorb all of the things that your kids feel, which can be a very good thing, but also can just, like, break your heart in a second, and I feel like my heart has never been broken as much as, like, that moment before. So that's probably one of the more challenging things, just, like, feeling the emotions on such a deep level, um, which also could be rewarding, but I think just the I don't know, rewarding is just watching them grow into, like, people. Like,
Mhm.
you have this baby, and it's just a baby, and you're, like, just trying to survive, and all of a sudden in a blink of an eye they're 8 and 6 and you're like, oh, they're these little people who have these little personalities, and as annoying as you can be sometimes, like I couldn't imagine like seeing anybody else grow up other than like who you've become. So I mean, I think motherhood in a nutshell is just rewarding but also challenging, so they're equal parts rewarding, equal parts challenging, but I think off the top of my head those are probably the things I would say. Although
Cool.
I will say with Christmas, one of the more challenging things has been my 8-year-old wants, like, an Apple Watch and an
Mhm.
electric mountain bike and, like, all these crazy things from Santa, and I'm like, "I don't wanna disappoint you. I mean, Santa doesn't wanna disappoint you, but, like, you're not getting those things for Christmas." So,
Right.
that's been challenging.
I love it. Kinda changing subject a little bit again, but what you said about the empathy side of feeling your kid's emotion made me think of something with, clients. Because right now I feel like both Kaylee and I struggle a lot with feeling the emotions of our clients, and this is something I did not understand. Like, you look at, like, influencers on, like, YouTube, you look at run coaches, you look at successful PTs that have client, and you're just kind of like, that must be so nice. Like having a full book of business, having a full following, whatever. It wasn't until I got to the point of having a sustainable business that I was like, holy shit, the emotional toll, like that you take on from like a client having a bad race or a mom having a bad day with their child or someone going through a divorce or like all those things. It's a lot. And
Mhm.
like I used to think I'm going to be the person that anytime anyone texts me, I will for sure be able to answer on the spot because I love what I do. And like this past year has been really challenging for me because I can't I got to a point where I emotionally couldn't disconnect, you know?
Mhm.
So I guess my
Mhm.
question is, I'm curious I'm assuming that maybe changes too once you're a parent and you like have to emotionally disconnect, right? I don't know what your opinion is on what I just said and if you have any tips for that.
No, that is a really good point, and, people always talk about boundaries, right? Like, I have a business coach, and she's like, "You have to set boundaries," and in my head, I'm like, "No, I don't set boundaries." Like, if a patient needs something at 9 o'clock at night, they need something at 9 o'clock at night, and for the most part, I do try to make sure that my business is not interfering, like, with my family time, right? But if it's a simple text, like, sure, I can text, but you do carry like the emotional burdens of like your patients or your clients because at the end of the day I'm spending an hour with them, and if I'm spending an hour with them like 6 to 8 weeks, like I've gotten to know them, I've gotten to know their families, and like we talk about a lot more than just physical therapy when I'm with them because I am also like a chatty Cathy as well, and so they know about me and my family, I know about them and their family, and so um thankfully, in this season of my business, I haven't had a lot of downs, like, I've had a lot of ups and happy moments with my patients, but there were so many times in my old practice, like at Alina when I was, fresh out or just a few years in when I really still deeply cared, like, I would come home and I would just think about certain patients and what happened for, like, days on end until I would, like, finally call them because I couldn't stop thinking about them, and I was like, this is exhausting to like care for people all day and then to carry that burden, throughout, which I think as providers and as people who as helpers, as empathy people, like I don't know that I have any tips because I don't know that you can cut that off or
Sure.
like stop that from happening. And it makes us human a little bit too. But I think setting boundaries, finding the boundaries and knowing that these are my boundaries and whether they're a soft boundary of like if there's a need I can fudge it, or a hard boundary of like no way no how am I answering a message or an email after like 6 p.m. on a Friday night or something, um I don't think you can turn off the empathy side of like carrying somebody's emotional burdens, but I think setting boundaries sometimes is helpful and reminding yourself of there is nothing I can do in this moment. And so I'll come back to it tomorrow, right? Like what we do is not life or death, thankfully, because I don't want that on me. But if there is nothing I can do in this moment, I try to like remind myself of like I gave a bad exercise today, and you know what? It's not gonna injure my patient, and I'll fix it next time. So, I think just, like, reminding yourself of, like, nothing bad is going to happen if I don't do this one thing right now. But, yeah, I mean, good luck trying to turn off your empathy brain because I don't know if there's a way, and if you figure it out, let me know for sure.
Yeah, there probably isn't.
We haven't figured it
We
out.
haven't figured. And I'm not I don't even know if I like you're saying, I don't know if I want to or need to turn it off either, because it is what makes
Yeah,
us good at what we do, all three of us. And I'm always curious to get people's takes on that. But I like to think about it as like the 24-hour rule too, is something I try to remind myself because well, part of my issue is I am extremely addicted to the satisfaction of helping people. I think we all are, right? Like
sure.
that dopamine hit I get from answering the text at 9:30, right? And like just feeling needed, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm definitely that vibe, and I'll admit that. But I try to remind myself that like nothing I am doing right now has to be solved within this 24 hours,
Mhm.
right? Even like if I mess something up, right? And like not that I'm trying to mess a program up, right? But if I'm like someone comes and sees me and I give them a strength program at home and I'm like, go home and do a lunge, right? It's really good for you, yada, yada. And I put squat in by accident, right? And then they like forget what I was,
Yeah.
even in those moments, like being okay, like, you know what? You messed up. You still like it can wait 10 hours it's going to be fine. 24 hours, 24 hours. They can wait 24 hours.
I see your boundaries are moving really quickly
Yeah.
here, Jacob.
Yeah. See, that's my problem. That's my problem.
Problem.
See, I didn't even think about it. I just went to 10 hours, you know? And like I'm big on, I start most of my days at 6 a.m. And so I try very hard, get up at 5:15, don't look at the phone. Because I've tried to put my phone away at 8, and then I'm like, everything can wait until my first gap is usually 9 or 10. I'm like, you can go be present with these morning clients. Don't look at your phone. And it's like the hit rate on that, man, it's
It's
probably
hard. I know.
the time I don't look at my phone. And even if I'm like, I got to make sure, just in case my 6 a.m. canceled, I just got to go look. You go
Oh,
look, and
you
you're
do.
like, no, I'm on my email. You know,
Now I'm here. I might as well take care of this while I'm
I might
here.
as well
Yeah,
answer these things. And then, yeah, you just immediately start rushed. And yeah, so
I hear you. Yep.
yeah.
It's hard.
I think we've all been there.
So
Mm.
the solution is that there is no solution. So,
Correct. Correct.
well, set boundaries, but
Glad we figured that out.
Courtney, as a PT, what do you wish that every mom knew?
That you don't have to do it alone. I think as a PT, I just want every mom to know that there is help out there and it's okay to ask for help instead of just like grin and bear it and do it alone, whether it's, whether it's asking for help from a PT or whether it's just simply asking your spouse, like, I need more help, or mental health. So it's not just generally as a PT, but like as me as a person and how I care about moms. Like, I just want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. Like, there's nothing in society that says, you're a mom now, this is all on you, figure it out, or you're screwed, right? So there's always going to be somebody out there that wants to help you, so ask and ask a lot if that's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
But from a PT perspective, I do wish again that every mom just got an order for PT when they left the hospital, and even if you only see me one time, at least hopefully I could give you a small nugget of information that would help you, along your journey or help ease your journey just a little bit. So
Mm-hmm. I love it.
yes.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us today that we have not covered? We appreciate
I
all.
mean, I think we covered it all.
it was a fast hour.
I know.
It was.
Okay, well
Yeah.
then I have one more question for you. What is your we get to do this moment from any time in your life? What was a moment when you're like, wow, I get to do this?
Can I have two? I think I have two.
Of course.
Um,
You have 5.
anytime I go for a run, I have to remind myself of like, I get to do this for all of the people that don't have the opportunity to do this, whether it's from injury or from inability or, that it's just not going to make it happen for them. Like, I always remind myself because running is hard for me. I have to force my runs, but I always tell myself, like, I get to do this and I'm doing this for somebody else who can't do it.
Mhm.
So that's one of mine, and then my other one is
Tired.
truly like
Great.
I just get to show up for moms, like, in whatever capacity they need. I get to be here for moms for whatever they need to make sure that they know I'm here for them and not for their children or their partners or everybody else that they're taking care of. I get to be the one to be there for them. So those are my 2 get to do this moments.
I love it. Well, thank you for all that you do. Because
Yeah, thank
clearly you
you.
are very needed, and I'm glad that we're starting to get more of this support. And like Jacob said, with like how we're talking about like menopause, and like it's nice that we're actually like finally talking about these things.
Yeah,
And just that reminder that we're not alone. So we
totally.
appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Yes, thank you.
Where can
Likewise.
people where can people keep up with you and connect with you and find you?
I have an Instagram, because I love social media so much. But that's Renew Me PT. And then I mean, my website, if anybody ever needs to connect with me, is just www.renewmeptandwellness.com. But those are probably the easiest ways to keep up with me.
And the website is looking fresh and new.
Thank you. Thank you. That's shout out to my web designer, Julie. So I'll tell her
Shout
you
out
said so.
Julie.
And I will put all
Thank
of that
you.
in the show notes too for listeners, so you guys can grab that in the show notes. So
Excellent. As well as I just opened my clinic space in Maple Grove. If you don't want me to come into your house because you didn't clean that day, which by the way, I don't ever care.
it's
It's
almost like
amazing.
people like apologize for like hairy legs or you didn't clean. It's like, I promise I'm thinking of so many other things right now than like how
I know.
dirty your house is or how
Ooh, there's some dog hair over there in the corner. You might
yeah,
want to take I'm just
I
kidding.
promise I don't care.
Exactly. Awesome.
But thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And thanks everyone for listening. We get to do
Thanks
this.
for having me, guys. Yeah.
Wow, Kaylee, we made it through another episode. What do you think?
We would love if you would go give us a follow, a 5-star review, and comment on the episode and what you liked and what you'd like to see more of.
See you next time.
We get to do this